Guys, thank you so much for joining. Very excited for today, guys. We've obviously got the opportunity, some of you young players, to ask questions of current and former college coaches on the men's soccer side and the women's soccer side. So my name, guys, is Oscar McConnell. I'm the Director of Athlete Recruitment at ASM Sports. Some of you guys will know me very well. Some of you, it'll be the first time. Pleasure to meet you all. Myself, grew up in England, as you can probably tell by the accent. And I think probably every coach joining us today, apart from maybe John, north of the border in Scotland, but halfway there, I think everyone else kind of came over from England as well, which kind of shows just how international college soccer is become and has been over a number of years. A lot of you guys, obviously, as players on the call today, will be internationals. Some of you will be Americans. So really good opportunity, guys, to ask questions of coaches here today. This is something personally that I wish probably as a player I had the chance to do when I was looking at coming out to the States. So we've got a real mixture, guys, of coaches that have coached from Division 1 to Division 2, NAIA, JUCO. Each of them has a ton of experience, guys, and a ton of lessons to learn off. So today, guys, no such thing as a stupid question or a silly question. Feel free to ask anything and everything that you might need answers to or might want to learn some advice from. I'll just do a quick intro here, guys, and introduce each of our coaches. And then I'll hand over to each coach to give a little bit more of a fuller kind of background on their playing, coaching careers. And then we'll jump into questions after that, guys. So first, guys, we've got Scott Wells. So Scott's from England, head coach at Gardner-Webb University, which is a Division 1 school in North Carolina. We also have Rob Tomlin and Pete Arnold. So Rob and Pete are the assistant coaches at PBA, which is Palm Beach Atlantic University, Division 2 down here in Florida. We have John Connor, who actually works full-time at ASM on the placement side, former head coach at Murray State, which is a Division 1 junior college on both the men's and the women's side. We may have a couple of more joining in just a few minutes, but I think that's all we've got on here for now. But if I hand over, guys, Scott, if we start with you, do you want to just say a few words, mate? Thanks for joining. Oh, is the sound coming through, guys, for Scott on your side? No, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Not yet.
Yeah, hand it over to someone else. Oh, there you go.
Tell you what, mate, I'll hand over to...
I'm used to Zoom, sorry.
There you go. Got it. We're in.
Yeah, so nice to meet everyone. My name is Scott Wells, head men's soccer coach at Gardner-Webb University. I have been coaching for about 15 years now. One thing that is something that I take a lot of pride in is I started my coaching career in the NAIA and then worked myself up from Division 2 and Division 1. So have a lot of knowledge of each of the divisions and massive respect for all of the divisions and the quality. Yeah, happy to be on the call today and happy to answer any questions for any of the players that are going through the recruiting process right now and are maybe getting a little stressed about it. So appreciate it.
Top man. Cheers, coach. That's brilliant. Rob, we go to you next, mate.
How are you doing, guys? Yeah. Coach Rob, Palm Beach Atlantic assistant. We are a D2 school. We play in the Sunshine State Conference. I have been the assistant here since 2022. Played here in 2021 to do my master's. Prior to that, I was at a D2 school called Wingate University. And prior to that, I was at an NAIA school in Oklahoma called Southwestern Christian University. So like Coach Scott, my pathway's been a bit spread out. But yeah, no, I also went through the agency pathway. I wouldn't get caught up in the D1, D2, NAIA system. I think there's a place for everyone, and I think everyone on this call is proof that I think once you get into the system and learn how things work, I think you can very much find your feet in the States. And again, I wanted to pursue a career playing. It didn't happen, but there's many other opportunities through through business, whatever your degree may be. But again, coaching for me was the next best thing. So.
Top man. Cheers, Coach Rob. And Pete, if we go over to you there, mate.
How we doing, guys? Coach Pete here. I'm also at Palm Beach Atlantic University with Coach Rob. I primarily work with the goalkeepers, so happy to answer any specific questions about that today if it comes up. But yeah, Palm Beach Atlantic University, same as Rob.
Top stuff. Cheers, Pete. And John, over to you then, mate.
Hey guys, so yeah, some of you might already have heard of me. I've been at ASM for a year and a half full time now. Before that, head coach at junior college for about 3 years. Good program, so I got to see the different side of the junior college world where kids were working hard to get that next step to those NAIA D2s and D1 programs, and I was able to see it succeed and see a lot of players grow on and then be successful at a 4-year program with the experience that they gained at the junior college, which I think definitely the coaches can confirm that it's something that they look into, top junior college programs. And yeah, I had a great time there, coached for 3 years, had a lot of success, and then came over and worked with ASM.
Top stuff. Guys, thank you very much for all of that. And players, guys, we'll hand over to you to ask any questions that you might have. Feel free to throw anything out there, guys. I'm just in the chat box for your reference going to put in just the names of the coaches that we have here today and just a little bit about their current or most recent coaching role. Feel free, guys, to take yourself off mute, shout a question out, or to type something in the chat box, whichever you'd rather. And let's see it. Who's going to be the brave one? Who's going to come forward first?
I'll go first. Evening, guys. Thanks for arranging this. I just wanted to pose a question first up. What, in terms of possible scholarships, what is it possible to get a full ride? And what will it take, or what is the range that of scholarships on offer for aspiring elite football players, and specifically goalkeepers?
Who wants to give that one a crack, guys? Obviously, scholarships will vary in terms of each program's kind of availability to give those and how many you can give. Scott, do you want to give just an insight into Gardner Webb, what that looks like? I guess how maybe difficult it probably is to get a full ride off the bat, and what that looks like for goalkeepers?
Yeah, I think, our industry, especially over the last 5 to 7 years, it's become, the standard of football obviously has become very, very high across all divisions. So the industry of scholarships is no different than the professional game. It's quite ruthless. We're trying to acquire a player. We're trying to get the best value of a player. And obviously, after going through the right protocols of, assessing, watching video, hopefully getting the opportunity to see live, the personal, interactions that we have with the family, with the player, what we think about the character. Obviously, all of those things come into it. But the reality is, if you're coming into a program as a freshman, as a true freshman in your first year, it's very, very difficult to get a full scholarship. There's no question about that. Goalkeepers, international, maybe a little bit harder in my experience, just because there are a lot of top domestic goalkeepers, in the States. And so you can find good goalkeepers here, that potentially for domestic lads, it's a lot easier to get certain financial aid than internationals. But the reality is that if the program have that need, that specific positional need, and they're looking for, they have the money available to be able to bring a goalkeeper in, then there's always a conversation. But there's so many different variables that go into it. I think that the brutal answer of it is that, I'm trying to do what's best for the program. So if I'm trying to bring you in, I'm not throwing a full scholarship straight out there unless, it's an absolute positional need in July or, late on in the process. But I think that there can be a conversation. And again, this goes down to the trust factor between the coach and the family of what the 4 years look like. Can you come in and earn your spot as a number one? How are your grades? How have you been around the team, the culture, the university, obviously in the classroom, you know, and then you have those conversations. We had a goalkeeper that come in last year that transferred into us. You know, he was paying, you know, probably about 50%, you know, and we're a private school. So, you know, it was around $25,000 to $27,000. And then he had a fantastic season for us, you know, really helped us move into the national tournament. And we were able to reward him, you know, at the end of the spring semester to give him, you know, probably virtually a full scholarship, close to a full scholarship. So I would say that the sacrifice part in the freshman year is most important. You know, if you're going into it looking for only full scholarships, you're probably going to miss the opportunity of going to the program that actually fits you. You know, there's a lot of hype on social media and a lot of people out there now talking about, you know, how much it costs to go to university and play college soccer. But at the same time, you know, there's certain universities that can only do so much. We only have so much funding to be able to gather around 28 guys, you know. So I would say that it's unlikely to get a full scholarship in the first year, but it's absolutely likely that it will progress over the 4 years.
Top stuff. No, that's brilliant. Thanks, Coach Scott. And Pete and Rob at PBA, is that something that you see a lot of? See, Scott mentioned the possibility to increase your scholarship over time, over years. Is that something that you guys see much of? And what kind of conversations are you having with players when they're coming in with freshmen?
Yeah, no, definitely. If they come in and prove themselves, there's no reason to why we can't increase their athletic scholarship. I think, again, Coach Scott touched on the grade side of things. So, I mean, D2 and D1 is different. D2 has like 9 scholarships to spread out across often 30 lads. So we're big on the academics. So the higher academics that you have, the higher your GPA is, we can give you academic scholarship. So usually if you're between like a 3.5 or a 4.0, you're looking to get anywhere between 14 to 18,000. And our school, we're a private school and it costs 40 grand to go there. That's huge, you know. But yeah, again, I wouldn't get too caught up with trying to get that full ride in the first year. Again, it depends where you're from. I'm from the UK, very working class family. I know that back home or anywhere in the world, you're not able to afford 40 grand to go to school. But yeah, you can definitely get yourself into the college system, and those highlights at the college level will make other schools, or again, if you go into your own school and prove that you can do the job at the college level, then we would be more inclined to increase that scholarship, whether it's for the second year or the years thereafter.
I can touch on that as well from our point of view at PBA. Actually had a client of yours from ASM, Omar, goalkeeper. So freshman year, we got him very, very late on. Maybe didn't get the scholarship that he wanted. He's come to his sophomore year last year. He's played every game for us. He's done really, really well. I'd say probably one of the standout goalkeepers in our conference. And ultimately, at the end of this spring, we bumped him up to almost a full ride as well. So it just shows if you warrant that kind of scholarship and you earn it, then you're going to get that reward, you know. And especially for a goalkeeper, it's an extremely important position to have. And when you've got a good one, you don't really want to let them go.
Of course, absolutely. And I suppose it'd be interesting as well, guys, to hear your take on positionally, if you're working with a scholarship budget, where you might allocate a bit more of that, and maybe which positions come first. Obviously, goalkeeper is a difference maker position. It can win or lose your games. But are there certain positions, guys, that when you're allocating that budget, obviously you want a balanced team, but you maybe go after a little bit harder or first, and maybe tend to put more scholarship money into those areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious answer there is the 9, probably, because they're so hard to find. But yeah, no, I think the spine in general is probably where you see most of the money get allocated to. But again, it really depends. Like college is a very unique system because you get 4 years of eligibility. So it just depends where that program's at in their recruiting cycle. So it differs, you know, each year. And again, it just depends on how the program set itself up.
I think for us, you know, we're very much a team that wants to have the ball. So, you know, we put a lot of emphasis in our goalkeeper, especially the technical area of the goalkeeper, and the two central defenders to allow us to build and deal with pressing moments. So we do put a large emphasis on the financial parts with a goalkeeper. But of course, the problem is, if you're looking at central defenders, we want 4 top central defenders in that are probably all our money here. But for the goalkeeping position, if you're the number 2, then we're probably not on any money, right? And so, if we're looking at 2024, we lost both our goalkeepers that had graduated. We're bringing in new goalkeepers. Both goalkeepers came in on no money, and so, like I said, the starting goalkeeper now was on 50%, which was his academic package, and the other goalkeeper was on roughly the same from an academic standpoint. And then they fight it out for the number 1, right? And whoever gets that number 1 position, then obviously gets that reward. And that's the hard part about the goalkeeping position, because from a central defending standpoint, we need 4 guys, and we need 4 top level guys. We can't afford, if we play a back 3 and we have 4 centre backs and 1 goes down, we can't afford to bring in a guy that we don't think's ready, right? Or at least scholarship ready. So the goalkeeping position is obviously a lot more ruthless, because you are fighting out there for one spot. But if our recruitment, we always try to bring in, if we have a junior goalkeeper, we're bringing in a freshman goalkeeper. So that goalkeeper knows that they have 1 year, the number 1 has 1 year left. And then obviously we don't have to go and re-recruit, because we can put that money into the number 2. And obviously they've got 12 months of preparing for that opportunity.
100%. And John, is that kind of a similar method to things that you used to take, or what would you kind of add to that?
Yeah, I'd say a bit different at the junior college level. Number 1, we tend to be cheaper, right? So already the cost of school looks nicer on paper, right? Then you have the fact that it's only freshman and sophomore. So we tend to have a lot more turnover, right? But when it comes to full scholarships, it goes to the same, right? It's very hard. And I used to tell people, and I've told clients at ASM, right? As a freshman, your main goal is to come and prove yourself. Find a home, like the coach has said, that fits you well, and then you come and prove yourself. The better you do, as I said at the start of my intro, I've seen it happen, right? Whether that's players my first year that went to PBU, right? Whether that's players that have gone and played Division 1, they all came in paying a certain price. Not many junior colleges will have a full team of kids on full rides. Most kids are still having to pay. We're still having to share the scholarship, but exactly the same. If you're a goal scorer, especially at juniors college, you come in and score 15 goals for me, put money on that me and any coach will give you more money next year, so that you don't transfer, so that you don't go to that 4-year school yet. I can have you for another year, and then I don't have to take a gamble on a new player. Right, so that's in a lot. And then I'm sure coaches will be able to agree as well that a lot of these 4-year schools do recruit from the junior college level, right? Especially some of these top programs. So your goal is try and get your scholarship wherever you land, whatever fits best. And my main thing is always come and prove yourself. If you prove yourself, every coach on this call wants to win. So we're going to do what we can within the means that we have to win. So if you're a goalkeeper that didn't get scholarship and now you're playing every single game, we're going to give you the money, because we don't want to have to invest in someone else.
Top stuff. And some stuff I definitely want to go back to there, John, that you highlighted about. And what we're always saying to players is, look, where you start doesn't have to be where you finish. And you mentioned obviously the junior college aspects where you will move on at maximum after 2 years. And we definitely want to hear all of your guys' thoughts, maybe in a little bit later, about the transfer portal, moving between divisions and things like that. But players and parents, guys, I want to hand it back over to you. That was a fantastic question to start with. What else do we want to know more about?
I just had another question, please. First of all, good evening to everybody. I just wanted to ask what you're looking for in a center mid or in any sort of midfielder. Thank you.
Scott, man, do we want to go same order, guys? We'll go over to you, Scott, and then PBA guys and to John.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I talked about obviously want to have the ball. So for us, technically, you have to be extremely, extremely high, right, when it comes to your ability to deal with the ball under pressure. the speed of play, obviously at the Division 1 level, is getting better and better at the college level in general. So dealing with a team that has a central midfielder that can drop in and can take care of the ball is really important. But ultimately, it's more about bravery for me. That there'll be times when you get in a man-for-man press, and you have to figure out things on your own. We just finished the USR2 season this summer, and obviously I was lucky enough to coach some of the best players in the country. And one thing that separates them from the centre mid that gets it and bounces it is holding on to the ball and be able to get out of situations on their own. So we do look, as a central midfielder, we do look for players that can kind of dictate the tempo and that everything kind of runs through them, and obviously intelligence, but ultimately the bravery and possession and wanting the ball is the most important thing for me. There has been some issues that we've had over the last 2 years with not being able to get the best out of players that can't cover ground. The athleticism side of college soccer, as technically gifted as you are, you might not be able to cover as much ground. That changes a lot of our tactical analysis, because it stops us being able to have one pivot and having to play with 2 pivots to protect them. So, the combination of the athleticism and being able to cover ground, and then also being able to be on the ball and dictate the tempo is super important for us.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can add to that. I mean, so when I came out to the States, I was more of an 8 in England, and I slowly progressed into a 6 and then a centre half, purely because, like Coach said, the athleticism is next level, especially at that D1 level. But yeah, every school's different. I think it just depends what the coaching style is. I think the biggest thing for me, which Coach touched on again, is getting the ball on that half turn and being positive. Like, are you going to be the one who's trying to constantly look to get us on the front foot and not only just get the ball in pockets and play back, but can you turn and can you find the further pass? Obviously the goal in football, in soccer, is to score, and for me, the most dangerous pass in football is into the 9's feet, but obviously the one that's in behind to put someone in on goal. But if you can constantly look to keep breaking those lines, but also what's next? If you pass the ball, what's next? What's the next action? Are you set up defensively to where if we lose the ball here, are you going to be able to make that recovery run to make sure that we're not going to get counted on? But yeah, there's obviously apart from the obvious ones, we want centre mids who can ping the ball 40 yards, score goals from distance. Obviously, like, those are the obvious answers to that. But everyone's different.
Yeah, hard to kind of add anything on that, but my main thing that I was thinking as well, it's such a high intensity game, high pace, and then high amount of games as well, right? So we play a lot of games in a short period of time. Energy, someone that is fit, someone that can get up and down that football pitch, depending, of course, the way you play and coaching style, right? Then you're going to add in, is he technically good? Is he big? Is he strong? But for me, that energy and a player that can bomb up and down that football pitch is something that in midfield at this level you definitely want to have.
I think Rob actually touched on a great point there. Like, verticality is something that is something we've struggled with a couple of our players. We actually had a player this summer who was captain of a Power 4 school and has not received a pro contract. And it's because he does everything that every centre midfielder does. He possesses just to possess. It's everything's left to right, right to left, bouncing back to the centre backs. If you can get a player that is breaking lines and is progressing you into the final third, there's a lot to be said for that. It sounds very simple, but the bravery and the ability to get on the half turn early and be able to find those pockets and have the bravery to receive it and open up with 2-3 yards away from the defender and break lines is actually, a lot harder to find than people think. That's what separates top level centre midfielders from centre midfielders that will go to college and have a decent career, right? It's just possessing to possess and not really progressing up the third. So I think Rob made a really good point there.
Like that a lot, guys. And just whilst we're on the topic of pros there, guys, and obviously it's position by position, of course it is, and there's different attributes, different things you need in your toolbox depending on where you are on the pitch. But for you guys that have seen players progress from college to pro, of course, other than the obvious things about positions and being exceptional maybe in certain areas, is there a common thread between those players regardless of position in terms of what they bring to the table, where you can say, yeah, regardless of where he was playing as a fullback or as a centre forward, he was one that made that jump, and I can see why, because the other lad that also made that jump, they had that in common. What is it that you tend to see from those lads that are able to make that jump to pro after the college ranks that maybe just the good college players, but not the top ones, don't quite have?
I think, Scott, you coach in the summer, and I think you've worked with a ton of boys that have gone on to play at the next level. So I think you'd probably be better suited to get us started.
Yeah, I mean, it's an obvious answer, but character for sure. Obviously, Gardner Webb is a mid-level Division One program. UNCG is a mid-major Division One program, and there were players that moved on from those programs that went pro. But if you actually follow and track them, you'll notice that some of them fall out of the program within 1 or 2 years. When you look at the Power 4 schools, look at some of the top level teams like Clemson, Marshall, some of these teams. The character is unbelievable. I mean, that's the hardest transition for me to come back to college from the USL2 is I'm working with elite level mindsets every single day. How they handle adversity, how they the little details, not just with football, but relationship building, culture building, being all in basically in every aspect of the program. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I think the Marshall centre mid is a JUCO product from Salt Lake. If you speak to Chris Grassi at Marshall, he'll tell you the reason he's a pro right now. Yes, he's an exceptional player, but his attitude is unbelievable in every moment of his life, whether he's having a good day, having a bad day. It's never affected by the training session or whatever is going on that day, class, bad days, woke up on the wrong side of bed. Everything every day is consistently trying to be better. And those players, most of the players I know that have not just got a pro contract, but sustained it and stayed and got a second year or third year is because of their attitude and their willingness to keep working hard. And again, just be a good person, have a great relationship with the coach. Because it's easy to do when you're in college and you're banging in 15 goals a season or, you're winning championships. But if you've been dropped, how are you dealing with that? Are you the first guy off the bench celebrating? Are you creating cliques in the changing rooms, or are you the one trying to keep everyone together? So the character aspect of it is unbelievable. And that's the best thing about coaching the USL2 is I'm basically with 28 guys that all have the same mindset, and every day is the same. The intensity, the attention to detail, the care for a teammate, the care for what we're trying to accomplish that day. I would say that's the difference for sure.
Spot on. Anything else, guys, to add on that, Rob, John, or Pete?
No, I think he's covered it. I was just going to say the mentality is the main thing. I think you definitely get those lads that are just absolute freaks of nature, and they just have that gift. But definitely from what I've experienced, it's the mentality side of things. Are you doing the right things? Like we because West Palm Beach is in such a brilliant location, you get boys all the time that have talent and they say they want to go pro, but are you getting your recovery right after training, or are you going to go surfing straight away? It's those choices you make that if you really want to play at the next level. Like we had Scott's work for him as well. We had Quincy when I played here in 2021 with my masters. We had Quincy Herman, technically, obviously an outrageous player, but always in the gym. And that's not meaning lifting. He was always in there, whether it was stretching, foam rolling, was always getting his nutrition right, even from. This was like 5 years ago now. And obviously it's no surprise he is where he is now.
Top stuff. No, absolutely, guys. And just with that pro side, can you talk to us a little bit? And I think for internationals, I'm always getting asked the question, what pathways are there to play pro from college? Is college a dead end to going pro? Obviously, we know it isn't, but okay, well, what does that look like? And can you talk maybe on some things? Obviously, we have the draft, then you have the USL Champ, MLS Next Pro, USL One. What do those different layers look like? How realistic is it for players to make that jump? And how does that kind of translate and manifest?
I mean, I think that there is a misconception about it being harder to be a pro over here as an international because of the rules on domestic players and the amount of internationals you can have. But we haven't seemed to have found too many issues with it. If, again, the player has sacrificed everything and has the right mentality Of course, they're going to have a bit of luck when it comes to, how their college season goes and what the positional needs look like from the pro level. But I mean, we had a South African central midfielder, played 3 years in the NAIA, came to us for his final season last season at Ghana Web and signed in the USL One. So Lucas Moro signed a pro contract in Croatia, and then you've got other guys like JC Ngando, Quincy. They're on the draft list. They go and play pro. Quincy in the championship, JC at Vancouver Whitecaps. So I think honestly, there's more opportunity than there's ever been. But on the other part of that, what we're starting to find now, probably different than when we came through, is you're not only speaking to an international now that has been released from a professional contract and is looking to come to America. We had Max Fisher for the last 2 years, our captain. He was a 1-year pro at Tranmere Rovers. And then he got offered a second year and he turned it down to come to America. There's a lot of people that are now seeing the benefits of coming out here. Again, just like another 4-year scholar, really, or 4-year apprentice, to be able to develop and get your degree, but also be able to keep that door open, not just in America, but in Europe and South America. And of course, as you mentioned, Oscar, you've got so many professional routes in America now, and it's only getting bigger. There's more expansion teams coming in the USL One and the MLS Next. So there's more opportunity than ever. And again, I say it's a misconception because, up until even yesterday, we've still got USL One and USL Championship teams calling about some players because an international spot has opened. So when you think that, you get to the end of the preseason for the USL and then there's no hope for internationals, that's not true. That's not true at all. There is turnover all of the time. So there's absolutely more opportunity here than ever to be able to go and play, for sure.
I think what I can add to that is the summer leagues are huge. I think they've got so many teams in the summer now that they have these pro feeder teams. So the eyes are just constantly on you. And it's like a weird melting pot of all the divisions mixed in together. I've played summer league for a couple of different teams. And you're playing with lads who are like Clemson, you're playing at lads who are in like Lindsay Wilson, all top college programs. And these are the lads that are trying to get to these pro positions. But I think the summer is a huge, if you're not really playing in the summer, it's a tough one. And again, we can talk about that as well. There's obviously a few different summer programs. And I think a lot of the soccer pyramid in the States has had so much change over the last few years. I think this question is very, very in depth,
Top stuff. John or Pete, anything on that side, guys?
So what I was very similar with the summer league. Again, like we said at the start of the call, there's levels for everybody, right? So it doesn't mean I can't get a USL 2. I'm not playing this summer, right? So at the junior college, we had players that went to USL 2. Amazing. But then we had many UPSL, NPSL teams that offered housing for the internationals, offered maybe, food and sorted them out for the summer. Also allows you to play that extra time, to get that extra fitness, to show up August in good shape. So definitely looking at the summer leagues, a lot of emails, a lot of messages on Instagram has to be sent to these coaches, and there's a level for everybody in that sense. And many of the places, it will be the case of, we take internationals, you may have to pay this amount, or other places like, no, we have a house, you can come and live here, whether that is UPSL, NPSL, and those divisions. And then, of course, hopefully you're cracking into that USL 2 league where those eyes are going to be on you. And it definitely a big shift in level.
Yeah, I think we touched on it before in the fact that we said it's not about where you start in terms of going into that next level within college. There's numerous examples of players over the years that have gone from the NAIA, from JUCOs, that have gone from D2s. I mean, there's different pathways. It's just at the end of those 4 years where you end up, it's kind of up to you what kind of position you put yourself in. If you're gonna sit at home in the summers and go off to Magaluf and Zante and party away, then you're probably not going to give yourself a good opportunity to go to that next level. So you've got to definitely put yourself in the right positions. A lot of it is down to yourself. If you really want it, then you're going to go out and get it for sure.
Top stuff, guys. Yeah, it's brilliant. And I think players, for those of you listening that do aspire to go to the pro side, one thing I'd be taking away from this is playing in the summers is a must, right? And putting yourself in that shop window at whatever level it is, right? It doesn't have to be the top USL2 off the bat. Obviously, that's incredibly competitive, but just, particularly if you're not in a D1, right? Getting the chance to play against D1 players, play with them, and be in that shop window over summer. Jonathan, welcome, mate. I can see you've got your hand up there for a question. Is that AK? AK, is that Jonathan? I think you're on mute there, mate.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Oscar and coaches. Good evening. I'm one athlete that's been working with Oscar throughout the spring. My question, I wanted to start by, you guys mentioned character, and you spoke briefly about the goalkeepers. I would just like to know, for each coach, what traits are there you really value in your keepers, both on the field and off the field?
I have an easy one for that, because it's something that was one of my pet peeves in training and as a player, is effort, right? We've said this many a times. With goalkeepers, it can be misleading when I say that. And what I say is, just because you're a goalkeeper, you don't have to be last when we do the running. Just because you're a goalkeeper, you don't have to be terrible when we play a rondo. Just because we're shooting from 6 yards out in training, you don't have to put your arms in the air and complain because you've had 17 balls shot at you from inside the box, which is something that I experienced at my program. So I had 2 players, one goalkeeper from Spain, been trained all of his life, technically very gifted, and then a young boy that was 6'4" from the middle of nowhere in Texas that just never stopped working. And the effort that he put in training translated into the games. 2 years later, he went and played Division 1 soccer. Didn't work out for him. Now playing and starting at a Division 2 program from a boy that was just playing high school soccer in the middle of nowhere in Texas, right? So for me, with goalkeepers, it's attitude. Every day, show up. You're different, right? As goalkeepers, I've always said this, you're different to the rest of the players. You have your own little group. You have your own training sessions, but still same type of effort, same type of determination, and everything in training.
Yeah, I'll add a bit, and then I'll hand over to Coach Pete, because obviously he works predominantly with our keepers. But touching from what John said, I think, yeah, like we don't hold the keepers to any real different standard than we do to our outfielders, probably even more so, purely because they're the ones that see the whole field, and we need them, communicating the whole time, and they see everything before it breaks down. But there's no surprise why you see most colleges use their goalkeeper as their captain. Not only do they have to work extra hard, because like Coach Scott said, they're battling out for 4 spots, but us as a program, and again Coach Pete can talk to more of this, because the game's evolved so much, keepers need to be playing with their feet. I can go into detail because there's no one in our conference on this call, so I can tell you a little bit about our playing style. But we use the keeper as like another defender during our build out. So we'll build out the back 4 with the keeper as like a centre half, and you have to be comfortable with being pressed by the striker at 100 miles an hour. So yeah, I think just with the way the game's going, and goal kicks have become more and more like set plays. You can break teams who want to really press you extra hard, and you can get chances. Something we have a program have had to grow and learn, because again, everyone's kind of doing it, but it really just depends. Pete, you can obviously add on to that, mate.
Yeah, of course. Just going back to our goalkeeper at the moment, obviously a client of ASM's. He is, the one thing that stands out for him that we absolutely love is the fact that he will literally train like it's his last day of training. And sometimes it can be his downfall. He's had a few concussions, obviously, in training. He's just putting his body wherever. But it's literally like he's never going to play football again. He's also got that little bit of an edge to him where boys are almost scared of him so he's got a presence at the back. So those are the two things that we really like about him. Obviously, he's loud, but yeah, those are the sort of mentality, and obviously he's got a lot of talent. But those are the things that you can almost control about yourself, for sure.
Yeah, I think all great points. I think John mentioned it, that goalkeepers are different, right? We call it the goalkeeping union back home. You know, they eat together, you know, they sit together on the bus. They're you know, they're always together. They're almost like their own little team as well. And I think that it's really interesting to me to watch whoever is the number one and how they interact with the 2 and the 3 and the 4, right? What's their relationship look like? What's the number 2's relationship with the 1 like? Do they have a good relationship? Are they supportive? Or are they frustrated and they think they should be the number 1? So I'm always looking at the relationship between the coaches and the players within the goalkeepers, just to see how they handle that adversity or how they handle being the 1 and how they lead that group. Some specifics that I've noticed over the last 2 years at my time at Gardner Webb, which is really important. Goalkeepers obviously usually are quite loud, great communicators. They have a great, strong personality. Time management for goalkeepers, I think, is so important, right? At least at our level, and definitely PBA, because PBA's conference is as good as our conference, if not better. You know, you're never going to be in a game where you're winning 4-5-0, right? Every game is tough. It's 1-0, 2-1, whatever. When you're seeing out the game, those last 10 minutes, a lot of it is on the goalkeeper. You know, being strong with their back four, telling them to push up, we're not building out, or time wasting, you know, when you can potentially, you know, off record, but when you can potentially get a yellow for time wasting, when you can't, you know, how are you trying to see out the game? The amount of times I've seen goalkeepers rush with things like that, or make certain decisions that change games and change results. I'm always looking at how a goalkeeper can command the last 10 minutes of a game, because I think that's really important. The other thing that I look for, and my goalkeeper is 5'10", so he's not a massive goalkeeper, but it's absolutely critical for me for goalkeepers to be very commanding in set pieces. You know, that at the Division 1 level, I've noticed there's a lot of direct teams. There's a lot of big strikers. There's a lot of teams that, you know, try, especially in the last 10 minutes of the game, they try to get you free kicks, your corners, and pull everyone up. You know, a goalkeeper that can come and command and can come and win the ball in those areas, you know, changes the difference between winning. You know, we beat Oregon State last season in the first round of the national tournament because our goalkeeper came for everything on set pieces, and was very commanding. And that, a lot of the times in games, you see teams lose games because of set pieces and aerial entries into the box. So, you know, those are some of the football specifics, but ultimately how they are conducting themselves within that goalkeeping situation, right? It's so different than being a right back or a centre back or a 9. You know, you're going to share time with the other guys in your position, but ultimately at the end of pre-season, if you are the 1, you know, are you guys together throughout the season? Is your 2 and 3 supporting you? Are you pushing them to be able to take over when you graduate, whatever it may be? So those are some of the things that I thought of when you asked that question. Great question, by the way.
Yeah, guys, brilliant, all brilliant answers. Jonathan, top man, and can see a couple of more questions in there, guys. We've got Maximilian next, I think, and then Ollie after that. Maximilian, do you want to ask your question, mate?
Yes, please. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Oscar, and good evening, coaches. I primarily have a question regarding the European players coming over to play soccer in the US. What are the big opportunities for these European players in general, leaving the European system and going over playing in the US for college teams? Like, what are the main benefits that you have realized with your experiences playing in both Europe and in the US, and also coaching in both areas, and also the opportunities for the players compared to the European market? Thank you.
Well, first off, obviously, I don't think any of us would have imagined 10, 15 years later being on this Zoom call as college coaches, right? And the opportunities outside of football are unbelievable. The memories we've made, the experiences we've had, and obviously the lifestyle that we have now, you know, is unbelievable. I'm sure I speak for everyone how grateful we are of what we're doing for a living. So the opportunities, you have no idea. The people you're going to meet, the avenues it's going to take you, the connections you're going to build. You know, there's a lot of people we all know that played college soccer and came out here, graduated, and went into a completely different market. But what a life they have now. You know, so there's so many opportunities that you can make from this, which is not even football related. For sure, But I think that, when coming over 9 times out of 10, if you're coming over from another country, you're playing on a certain team, right? And, maybe there's a couple of people that, like I said, Max, he turned down a pro to come over. But 9 times out of 10 for me, I'd been released from a contract in England. And so then I was playing at a certain level. I would say when you play 4 years over here, you're going to improve, you're going to develop, you're going to become a better player, you're going to mature as a person. The worst case scenario is you go back home, play in the same team in the same league, and you've got your degree in your back pocket. So the win-win in all of this is that you could go home and you could return to the same level that you were playing at, but you could take a chance and you could come out here for 4 years and see if there's something else that potentially is something you want to do in your life, whether it's football or not, or non-football related. So for me, I don't, there's players that have gone home after graduating and playing at the same level, if not higher, than they was before. So, for me, it's a massive win-win for 9 out of 10 international players coming over.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the opportunities on the football side, I think you'll have to go and do your own research a little bit and see of some like success stories, whatever that may look like, whether it's going pro or just having good college careers. But college soccer is a big part of multiple different internationals. It's not. I mean, every school's different. I think the rules have changed a bit over the years on the restrictions of how many internationals you can have at certain levels of certain teams. But you get players from South America, from Europe, from Asia, like all over, and it's all mixed into college soccer, And I think if you add on like probably from years prior, the American mindset has been that big emphasis on fitness, and you see that with sports like American football, you see that with like basketball, very athletic lads. But now you put that side of it, and then you put all the technical abilities from all around the world. That is what college soccer is, So there's no surprise to why the level is as hard as it is. I can only speak from an English standpoint and say that it's very well. You see lads who have gone on to play in the Football League. You look at, or even the Premier League. You look at Jack Harrison, who's at Wake Forest. And now he's playing at Everton, I believe. He was at Leeds United. And that's just one example, But the English football pyramid's got 4-5 pro divisions if you count the conference. And you get lads, it's not uncommon for lads to break into the professional ranks back home in England after coming and playing the top level in the US. And it's the same all around the world.
Yeah, I'd touch on that as well, and the fact that it's a lot of other international boys coming over. So if that's one of your worries, especially as a client of ASM's, like, you're not in this alone. When you come out here, you're part of a squad that has however many international boys that have also left their hometown, come to wherever you are in America, and you're all living together in the same boat. So you get through things together, and then ultimately you become best mates. You'll have them along at your wedding in the future. You'll go visit their hometowns maybe in the summer or Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But as a collective, you're all in it together. It's a full experience, and you're not alone in that sense.
Yeah, and I mean, to add, I think the main thing, of course, is what Coach Well said, is the change of life, right? From coming where you're from, myself, having a British background, but being born and raised on a small island in Spain, very easy to get caught up, as Coach Rob said before, right? Going to Magaluf. So that's where I was from. So very easy to get caught up. So the one thing I would add that's not even about the future, that's more for when you get here, is structure. For me, it was structure, right? Going to college is structure. You will show up there August the 1st, and trust me, you will have a day by day, hour by hour process of your day, whether that's working out, coaching, going to the gym, getting trained, looking at footage, going to class, 20 minutes to go play a game of FIFA with your friends, and that is your day. And structure is probably the thing that gave me the most. And touching on what they said was, I've been able to do so many things that I learned from that structure that coaches gave me when I came here. And even outside of the soccer world, been able to do so many other things that so grateful for. And I think structure becomes a big part of that.
I also think that sometimes the players and the families overthink it. I mean, we had a Swedish player last year freshman that went home in December. He didn't like it. It wasn't for him. He made the effort to try. He was homesick and he wanted to explore something different. And that's okay. There was no issues with that at all. So, sometimes I think, you should definitely go into it thinking it's a 4-year decision, but it's okay if after 12 months, it's not something you're happy about and you have that conversation with the coach and you leave and you go home. So sometimes I think families worry about making the jump and then they can't go back on it, but you absolutely can make that decision if it's something that you potentially felt like was a mistake.
100%. I think that's spot on, guys. And it's almost, we frame that sometimes, John, to players in terms of it should be a 4-year commitment, right? You're going out there with the mindset of I'm here to give this a real go for 4 years. But best case scenario is you get all the things that the coach has just touched on. Worst case scenario, it's not for you. Home's still there, right? I always say to the lads from England's not going anywhere, believe me. And if it's not right, you can always do a U-turn and go home. But Ollie, I see you've got a question there, mate.
Yes. Hi, Oscar, and hi, coaches. I was just wondering that obviously you guys will speak to lots of potential recruits, and I was wondering what separates the ones that you do give offers to, obviously, apart from just the quality of player, for example, quick communication skills and things like that.
I think the one thing that I've learned a lot as I've matured as a coach and a recruiter is, making sure that the player and the family completely understand the opportunity and where they're coming to, right? For example, Gardner Webb is not like PBA, right? There's not a whole lot of things going on. We're in a very small town in North Carolina. You'd be lucky to find a lake, let alone anything else, right? So you're coming here for a football decision and an academic decision, and you're going to be around players that maybe share the same mentality of you as wanting to be a pro or wanting to develop as a footballer. So making sure that the player and the family understand exactly what they're walking into, because the reality is there are coaches out there that will tell you you're 20 minutes from somewhere that you're really not, that it is the opportunity that it's not. So having that relationship with the coach and really having that relationship obviously with Oscar and ASM and them finding you the right opportunities, but understanding what the opportunity is and not being off guard when you arrive is really important. And of course, if we've ticked all the boxes as a footballer and we know you're a guy we want, and then we really are sort of working on your characteristics, right? How many questions you're asking during the conversations that we're having, the family background, the support of the family, and understanding what the opportunity looks like and how bad they want it. So then unless you're going and watching them live multiple times, which sometimes isn't easy to do, you really have to take a risk. Both parties have to take a risk and trust, through that process. And I think there's multiple Zoom calls that happen for us, at least in terms of how we play, how we see you fitting into our system, where we see you year 1 versus year 2, what we're going to be demanding from you, each day. And of course, then, getting that return from the player and the family. So there is an element to it that you are taking a leap of faith, because you never truly know who that person is until you start working with them face to face, day in, day out. But you can do as much as you can through the recruiting process to know who that person is, the family, speaking to their coaches, speaking to as many people as you can through the process. So yeah, it's tough. It's obviously the toughest part of our job is getting that part of it right.
Yeah, and that last part you mentioned is what I was going to say. Like, it's a process of getting to know you as a person, probably more than anything, and that's us doing our due diligence to try and find that information that isn't that easily accessible. And social media is probably a big one. We as a staff will probably look at that, and it's quite revealing of what someone's like a person. And again, every program's different. PBA has a lot of religious affiliations. It's a Christian school, and again, the campus is different to most campuses you would get that aren't like obviously religious. But that's just one little detail. But we'll definitely do our due diligence as coaches to really try and build that relationship before we make our decision. Again, we preferably would like players to stay with us for as long as possible. But again, it does happen often that we were wrong about some players. If we get one bad egg in our environment, it could be catastrophic, So it is definitely a long process. Like, an offer doesn't often come after one phone call. You know, it often happens after to multiple, unless you're coming from Man United, you know. But yeah, no, character is definitely a main one, and we'll definitely do what we can to get a reference on you, or if you're coming from overseas, see what we can find.
Yeah, same. Similar to what Rob said, I'd highlight the fact that once you're out here, especially if you're looking to transfer, coaches, everyone knows everyone. So if you're looking to transfer somewhere and you're leaving it in a bad way, or something's gone wrong at one place, everyone knows everyone. Everyone's going to find out. So just make sure that you're always leaving wherever you're leaving or trying to go to, or just when you're communicating, you're having that respect with everyone, because word does travel. Coaches speak to each other. Everyone pretty much knows everyone in the college game.
Yeah, I think they've hit it on the nail there. That again, it's very similar to going on a job interview, right? Like Coach Tomlin said, it's not get on a call, here's your offer, and away you go, right? Let's make this happen. No, we want to talk to you. We want to talk to your parents sometimes as well. Then I will also say I've been on many calls where I only get to talk to the parents. Something that for me as a coach is a bit of a no thank you, right? I've had players that I've really liked their footage. I've had a call, don't see them as engaged. And me as a coach, if I think you're struggling to engage on this video call that's potentially life-changing or potentially something you want to do, how are you going to engage when I'm boring you about this other team's breakaway or this other team's set piece? And that's also a thing, right? So definitely put yourself out there and put the best foot in front. Engage, talk, ask questions, and yeah, that's my main one on that.
Top stuff. Thank you, coaches. And Manasseh, I can see you've got a question there, mate. Yeah, your handheld. Do you want to ask away?
Good evening, coaches. I was wondering what you guys would be looking for in a striker.
Who wants to say it first?
That's my favourite question of all time.
Who's going to say it first? There's one thing only.
Yeah. Okay. I think the detailed answer to that is again, it all ties down to the system. The easiest answer is like you want a striker who's going to score goals, but we like to carry strikers that have different traits. We've got two strikers right now. One's very good. He's a big lad. One's very good at holding it up, dropping deep, and has the ability to make quick decisions, whether that's to set the ball off for a ball in behind or to turn and exploit that way. And then we have the other one, who me and Pete like to call him the German Jamie Vardy, because he's a lot shorter, he's got pace, and he just rats about the place. So I think, again, the obvious answer is you want a target man who can do it all. But again, they're so hard to come by, you know. Guys, you can chime into what else you would look for, but I think the answer is so broad, but it's broad to every single position.
Yeah, for me, our 9 is the only profile on the field in our 11 that we don't look for the same areas as others. We're not too worried about the technical aspect of a striker. We're not too worried about hold-up play. We put a lot of emphasis into our wingers and our 10s to create entries into certain areas of the field for our number 9. Last year, we brought a junior college boy in, just so you know, he was playing full whack. So he was paying $27,000. He was a good JUCO player. But, you know, when we got references back from some of the 4-year universities in that area of the country, they wasn't taking him. So we took a risk and we brought him in based on what we knew about our wingers and our 10s. He scored 14 goals last season and was an all-region selection because we made sure he was in the right areas. You know, we made sure that we kept him in certain entry areas and obviously worked on our wingers and our 10s to provide that service for him. We don't really look for guys that can win aerial battles or, you know, like I said, hold the ball up and bring players into the game. We just want 9s that are on the last line and are explosive. It's not right or wrong. It's just something that it's working for us at the moment. And so we've gone that route again. And we have a grad striker that has replaced him, that has 1 year. So we will be looking for a striker in 2026.
Yeah, I think with the footage, I would say personally as a coach, it was the hardest one, right? As a striker, I feel like a lot of times you're just taking a risk, you're taking a gamble, especially if you can't see him live, right? You're getting the best version of that striker because you're watching 4 minutes of this person score goals, right? So a big part of it is taking a risk. And then I think each coach has kind of already described they like different type of players, right? So whether you're the big target man, you're the small German Jamie Vardy kid, I still think once you get here, the answer's numbers, right? So you can be number 1 to number 4 on my list of who I think is going to play as a striker. By week 5, the person that's putting the ball in the back of the net the most is going to be the striker. And that's how I viewed it, right? So many things that I could look at in footage is all the ideals: big guy, strong, fast, small, technical, but you're still taking a gamble because you have to come and do it here. And that's on you then, right? As a striker and as a number 9, it's that wanting to score goals. And that's who I'd want on my team.
Top stuff. Cheers, guys. No, that's brilliant stuff. And I see a question in the chat from Roberto. For the Canadian high school prospect, are coaches / schools looking more at the Canadian pool? Is Canada an area, guys, that you recruit in? Or if not, is it something that you think other coaches potentially do look at a lot? I know we've had at ASM a lot of Canadian lads who've come over and done pretty well. What's your take on that, guys?
Yeah, we've had some success in Canada across college soccer. The success from Canadian players moving on to the pro level is fantastic. We do a lot of work with FTF, which holds some great showcases that have really helped us. We brought a Canadian boy in last year out of high school that's done very, very well for us. So yeah, we definitely do. I don't think it's any different than anywhere else for Gardner-Webb specific, who recruit quite a lot of international players. So we're always in that market. We do our trips. We do 1 trip to Canada a year. So we're very much interested in the Canadian market for sure.
Yeah, not a ton to add on that. I think we use ID camps as a big one. Again, obviously it's still a long way away, but we just had a showcase this past weekend where we had a handful of Canadian lads. But it's like anywhere, if doesn't really matter where you're from. If we think you're good enough, and you fit what we're looking for, we will look to recruit you. Like PBA hasn't got a huge recruiting budget to where we can go and take these trips. But ideally, I would like to. I know Coach Pete's been up to Canada a few times. But we're very much aware of the talent that is in Canada for sure.
Yeah, again, I think it's where you're from. I think I'm right in saying that in Canada, in terms of the schooling and stuff like that. And obviously Quebec, it's a lot of French speaking. So I think a lot of the boys from that sort of area tend to go onto the JUCOs to improve their English a little bit better before moving on to a 4-year school. But again, depends where you're from and schooling system in that kind of, and how it translates over to the US for sure.
Yeah, not much else. I mean, yeah, we've had Canadians, like Coach Tomlin said, you'll take anyone that you think is going to fit, no matter where they're from, right? And then, yeah, my recollection for Canada has always been the FTF events, right? And they've always been very well ran. And then I know they do those pre-eliminations where you go to the events and then they do the top 100 and they do the top 60, where probably will bring a few more coaches in. But, yeah, I think it's very similar for everyone on that.
Fantastic. And I can just see the second part of your question, Roberto, there, kind of about the changing dynamics in the NCAA and whether NAIA or JUCO is getting more exposure as a result. Guys, really wanted to ask you about this myself. Players, parents, for those of you that are maybe not aware, there's been a lot of changes the last year to 2 years in the NCAA. Division 1 roster cuts, right? 28 players max, which is a change. In the past, when I was playing, for example, you had rosters that were north of 30 for sure. Scholarship increases, right? Schools with a lot of funding are able to go above the 9.9 scholarships, all the way potentially up to 28. Other schools are going down. Not everyone can do that. You've also got something called NIL money, where players can make money from endorsements from third parties. And as of 2 months ago, now the universities can pay the players directly. What do you guys think in terms of, there's obviously a lot of nuances there. There's a lot of parts to that question, but generally speaking, with all of these changes that we're seeing, what are the effects that we're seeing so far, either on just Division 1 or on the college soccer pyramid as a whole? And where do we see the future of college soccer going the next 5 years plus?
Obviously, it's a crazy time to be in Division 1 right now. We are certainly very fitted for this conversation because we're a school that opted out of revenue sharing, so we will not be falling under the 28-man roster or the NIL revenue sharing. So we're still operating the same way. So the next 12 months is going to be critical to see exactly what happens in the Division 1 landscape. There's been talk about obviously there being a separation and then potentially having a different tier of Division 1. There's been talk about schools like ourselves moving into Division 2. So really it's hard to give you clarity on exactly what it looks like. I mean, I will say for Gardner Webb, we're opting out. We still have a development team, so we still operate in the development team model. So I think we're the only team now in Division 1 that are doing it, maybe one or two, where we are giving opportunities to players, because there's good players everywhere. Doesn't matter if you can pay your players, there's 28 full scholarships on a roster. It really doesn't matter. There's top players everywhere, and you'll be able to find them, and you're still going to find an opportunity. But I think for us specifically, we can still offer that opportunity at the Division 1 level. We have kind of tried to make sure we find players that we do realistically think that can move into the first team. And we've had 3 or 4 graduate from the development team into the first team over the last 12 months. And we want to continue to do that. So we have the staff in to give them the same experiences that they would be getting anyway at any other program, which is great. But yeah, of course, with the introduction of the new rule of extra years of eligibility, it might potentially be a situation where you look to have a gap year, or you hold off for 12 months to see exactly what this is going to look like. But I still think that, if we're playing against a team that are falling under the revenue sharing and they have the money to be able to pay their players, we still have top players that they didn't find, so that's not going to change our recruiting strategy at all. We're going to continue to keep operating the same way we did. There was a lot of teams last year that had more than we did before this happened, that we were still able to be successful against. So I don't think it will change anything from an immediate standpoint in terms of the games, but in terms of the structure of Division 1 and how it looks in the next 12 months, that would be something that I would obviously be keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, no, I think the bottom line of it all, it is very exciting. And I think it's great for lads that are overseas who potentially aren't playing at those top levels, that maybe D1s or top D2 snap up straight away. You can go into the NAIA, you can go into the JUCO levels and still get, I believe, 4 years of eligibility at a D1 school. And now as a D2 school, obviously we'll probably lose out on boys that want to take that pathway instead. And it's fair enough. I think maybe if I was a freshman, again, I would probably look to take that route. As a D2 coach, we're hopefully going to get the trickle down of that in a year or so. So I can't really add anything more than what Coach just said, besides like it's definitely a very exciting time. And who knows what's going to happen. I think in American soccer in January, we've got the World Cup coming next year. And I think soccer in this country as a whole is just going to explode, even though it has already.
Yeah, for us as a D2 school, sorry, as Rob just touched on, our rules tend to change in a little bit of a delay after Division 1. So you'll probably see a few rule changes in Division 2 in the next few years. We sort of tend to see how it goes in Division 1 first, and then it flows down into the Division 2.
Yeah, so for me, just answering on that one, kind of with my experience, about JUCO getting more exposure, I would be an advocate for yes, but of course it depends on the program you're at, right? Again, my program was very lucky. They worked hard, top 10 in the nation, got to go to national tournaments, got to win championships. My roster, those kids that did play that did have an involvement got a lot of exposure, got a lot of offers, right? Whether we're talking Division 1s to Division 2s, NAIAs, right? But most of them got a lot of exposure. What my opinion is about it as well, especially as Coach Rob said before, sometimes you may just be on that frink where, yeah, D1, D2s are looking, but you're not going to play, right? And playing at a school of my level when I was coaching at my club, I would say personally, in my opinion, is better than sitting on the bench right now at a Division 2, right? And then my other thing that I used to use to try and recruit players that should be going to Coach Wells and Coach Tomlin is, listen, if you come and play here and you do well for yourself, these coaches will probably want you. But then you also have another thing that, in my opinion, your mindset coming in as a sophomore, coming in as a junior to a 4-year school compared to the freshmen that they've recruited. From my experience, a lot of times these transfer players tend to have that extra edge just because of they're used to the climate, they're used to the schooling, they're used to the lifestyle. So, you know, if you're going to go and you're going to play for Coach Wells and you're going to go and be a part of that team, then of course it's definitely the way to go, right? You don't want to be stuck with me in a small town in Oklahoma. But if that team is a competitive team and you don't see yourself competing, but you know deep down you can do it, then I do say JUCO and NAIA is the way forward. But again, there's the other flip side that you can come to this junior college, it doesn't work for you here, and then it is a down spiral, right? Depending on what your aspirations are in that soccer world. So being a college coach and being someone that's had 30, 40 players go to top programs, I think it is good. And I do think we get the right exposure. And I think it's growing a lot more within the years that I spent. I think it has grown a lot, where my first year, maybe 10 emails from coaches, to my last year's, every coach, hey, what players have you got? What's moving on and what's not?
Top stuff. Guys, just conscious of time, coaches, I know you've all got busy days to crack on with training and things like that. Jonathan, just really quickly, mate, do you want to ask your question, and we'll direct it probably just to one of the coaches, just for the sake of time, mate?
Yeah, I know you guys spoke about it earlier, that the season is quite compressed, and with games coming thick and fast, I would like to know how each coach on the different levels structure their preseason, what you guys emphasize on, and how you build your preseasons in terms of like sessions, video calls, and all that kind of stuff.
Who wants to take that one, guys?
Yeah, I can go. So, yeah, I mean, the schedule of the college schedule is crazy. You know, you cram in 25 games in the space of 12 weeks, pretty much. So what we do for preseason, I mean, every coach is different. I think you'll find some programs that look to do 2-3 a days, which have its, you know, positives and negatives. I think us as a staff, we like to do max 2 a days because we want to emphasize, you know, quality over quantity. And I think D1s start earlier than D2 this year. So we play Florida Atlantic University on the 14th, or I think it might be the 15th, which is our second day of preseason, you know. So if we're getting lads to come in on August 13th, we're not going to do X amount of fitness for the first 2 days and then go and play 90 minutes against an FAU side who's had probably 2 weeks of preseason under their belt. So again, it is different, but I think we're asking lads to come in fit. It's not really a preseason, you know, like with so many games in a short space. That summer before you come in is your preseason. You know, we'll do a little bit. We'll do the fitness testing, and if lads haven't come into, you know, the fitness levels that we'd want, we'd do what we can to try and get them there. But at this level, mate, it's the next best thing to being pro. Like, boys know what's expected of them. We'll give them like a summer fitness packet, and if they're not hitting, you know, the test numbers that we're requiring, before they come in, they're not going to play, you know, and obviously injuries will tie into that as well. And we like to think that's the same for everyone. Doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not putting the work in and showing how dedicated you are, you won't play. And again, guys, you can add on to that quickly. I know that's quite broad and brief, but yeah, the summer for me is huge. You need to come in fit and you need to come in firing. But as a freshman, if you've got no college experience, chat with the coaches often, get advice, speak to players that are already in the squad, ask them what they're doing. But yes, make sure you're coming in flying.
So we check. So we have some guys that checked in last month for summer too. So we had them do summer classes and work with the strength and conditioning coaches. But when we leave, so every returner has to play in the summer. It's not technically allowed to be mandatory, but if you want to play at our program, you need to play in the summer. As Rob said, it's really, really important, not just for publicizing yourself, but preparing yourself, which you're probably used to a year-round model. You know, we need you to make sure you're match fit when you're coming in August. So we will give our GPS equipment to two players that are most consistent performers, mostly central midfielders. We take that data, we use that data when we get back on Monday, so that everyone checks in on Monday, and that data will basically design a 45 minutes of that data will be a fitness test that the freshmen have to do. So it will be anything between acceleration, deceleration, you know, short and term, long distance, and make sure that the guys that are coming in from the freshmen do understand what is required from them, because how would they have any idea? We are completely understanding that, you know, they're coming into an environment where, you know, they may think they're fit, but especially in South Carolina, and I'm sure the same in Florida, you know, they don't understand what preseason matches are really going to feel like from the humidity standpoint, just temperature overall. So we try to get those guys to understand that. And then we don't do too much fitness testing with the guys that have obviously played. We have an 800-minute cap for them in the summer. The coaches have to use that as wisely as they can. And then we feel like they're ready to go. So usually it's just the freshmen or any of the guys that did not play in the summer for whatever reason, injuries, that will do some work based on the GPS data that we receive from the most USL2 consistent performer through the summer.
Yeah, from me, just quickly, one of the most important things I touch on, especially coming out to America, is their value of strength and conditioning. It's such an important part out here. Each college will have their own strength and conditioning coach coming in pre-season. If you've not been in the gym before, you are going to struggle. So it's something that we always say about to players when we go to camps is don't go out and buy that new pair of soccer cleats. Go and get a gym membership. Learn how to squat. Learn how to clean a barbell. You know, one example I think I can give, obviously Scott, I think you've worked with him as well. Mikel Rashid, he was in my freshman year class. Pre-season, we came in early, and he got absolutely beasted in the gym. He was sunk. He could not do it. Caused him all sorts of problems. Went away, worked on it in the spring, done really well. Came back, got a move to a big time D1 school, and now he's playing in the professional ranks here in America. So it is so important that you don't come in and you sink in that first couple of weeks of pre-season for sure.
Yeah, so junior college, a little bit less rules, so a little bit more wiggle room with what we want to do, but still very similar. 2 a day normally. Again, as Coach Tom said, normally I would schedule a game 2 days after, right? I want the kids to show up and have a game and see what we can do against someone else. But it goes back to before, right? A lot of routine. That preseason, we want you to have that routine. Everyone's excited. Freshmen, sophomores are back. Everyone's happy to go. A lot of team building, a lot of work on the field, a lot of work in the dressing room when it comes to learning what we want to do moving forward, right? And you have very little time because most of these schools, whether it's junior college or any of the 4-year levels, the day you get there, 4 weeks later, maybe 5 at the max, you've got a big game, a game that's a conference game, a game that's going to decide how long your season goes that year. So there's not a lot of time for room to play around. So coaches want you fit, right? And as Coach said, you have a game 2 days later. So let's think about it. If you show up first day and you're not that fit, good chance is you're not going to get that first chance, right? And if the guy that did get that first chance does really well, most likely he's going to start the next one again. And now you're playing on this one, right? So yeah, definitely come up to fitness, be prepared, and then the heat, right? Drink. You guys, if you're coming out, right, start drinking water. It's hot, right? And I tell people and they laugh and they giggle, and then unfortunately people faint, and it's hot.
100%. And that's it, guys. Any of you coming out freshman first year, first impressions are everything. They're absolutely everything. And that first week is a real chance for you to show up, bang on it in top condition and hit the ground running. If you don't do that, you've already set yourself up with a bit of a hill to climb. But just lastly, guys, I know we've taken a lot of your time, coaches. Really, really appreciate it. And some really interesting insight there. Just wanted to go around each of you and just kind of ask about your specific program. What's the goal going forward next season? Obviously, we're around the corner. Scott, if we start with you, Coach Wells, obviously off the back of winning the conference championship, going into the national championship, beating Oregon State, one of the top teams in the Division I, really putting Gardner Webb, I think, 36 in the RPI out of 211 D1, so kind of creeping into that upper mid-major almost. Where do you go now next season? What are the goals to kind of build on that and beyond?
Yeah, I've thought about it since we finished last season. I mean, it's really great. It's great to have that season, and I'm very, very proud of it. But sustaining it is going to be harder than ever. That's the goal, is to sustain. We have a good set of returners versus new guys. We found a few new niches in the recruiting cycle that we think are going to be able to build on that. Our conference, High Point University have dominated our conference for a long, long time, so they're not going away. And as far as they're concerned, they'll feel like that was a one-off. So our job is to make sure that we sustain it and we become a regular powerhouse within the conference. And then I think we were very unfortunate last year to be sent to Oregon in the first place. I think we deserve to stay further local, or closer local, to be honest. But I think we had to earn the right to be in the national tournament. So now we have earned that right, and we have some stripes to it. I would like to feel like we can make another push again and try to progress further into the national tournament. And again, the other goal is I want to continue to keep helping these guys go pro. That is a really, I love that they get a degree. I think we can all speak and know that every player that comes out is going to be able to obtain that degree. But for my program specifically, like, I take a lot of satisfaction in helping players do something that was taken away from me that I couldn't achieve, so wanting to make sure that we can help push our guys on. Obviously, I think Winan Wessels is an ASM client. He was one of the first in program history at Gardner Webb to go pro. Lucas Moore followed the second. So we're hoping that with some of the guys that graduate in December, that we can help them obtain their professional contracts as well. So the goal will be continue to keep winning, for them personally and us collectively. And fingers crossed we can get that done.
Fantastic. Thanks, Coach. That's brilliant. And PBA, just to hand over to you guys, Coach Rob and Coach Pete, had the pleasure, obviously, PBA being on our doorstep in West Palm Beach, of coming to see you. PBA play a couple of times last season. For those of you that don't know, guys, PBA compete in the Sunshine State Conference, which is arguably the top, or one of the top conferences in Division II. Extremely competitive level. A big argument probably to say that teams in that conference would make a real impact in Division I for sure, which is maybe something we didn't quite get into, but we could be here all day talking about that as well. PBA obviously play a very exciting brand of football, a lot of international players. What are you guys looking for out of this coming season? What are the kind of the goals that you're looking to build on and achieve?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think every year the goal is the same. Obviously, the easy answer is you want to win it all, but I think it's so easy to get carried away, especially early on, when you think you've got, you think everything's clicked, and you think, like the team is everything and more that we thought it would be. But you've got to take it step by step. I think each game is so difficult, and there's so much work that goes into it from a coaching standpoint. I think just taking it game by game. Lynn obviously won the national championship, a team 20 minutes from us in Boca. So yeah, they're the, we got to be chasing them. I think 1 through 11 teams, I think, could win the conference. You know, maybe that's being a bit generous to a couple, but you look at likes of like Florida Tech, Barry, Rollins had a phenomenal year, and I could go on. You know, there's no easy game. Like I wouldn't say as a staff we go into a game thinking, oh, like this is going to be quite comfortable here. You know, so which again is awesome. I think that's what you want as a player. You don't want to go into a game thinking, oh, this is an easy 6-0 win, which I've had in college. You know, we've put teams away just because the difference is just so far. But yeah, I think just taking it game by game. I think we obviously want to win the conference. Then again, another conversation is how it works with the conference tournament and then getting into nationals and all that stuff. But I think, yeah, win the conference, take it game by game and see what happens. I think our conference is so high. We have a good chance of getting a good ranking. But yeah, you have your regional games, hopefully take care of them and then see what happens.
Not much from me, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depend how you want to look at it. I resigned from coaching about 1.5 years ago, was happy with what I did, and I was very lucky from the conversations that we had at the start of this meeting that things outside of soccer progressed for me and allowed me to be grateful and not have to be in that world anymore. And by the look here with ASM every day now, so still involved somewhat in soccer, but without the stresses that these coaches are going through right now.
Fantastic. Coaches, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Really, really useful. We'll obviously be posting this webinar, maybe edit it slightly, make it a little bit shorter. We went on for a while there. But really appreciate it, guys, and players and parents as well. Thanks for joining. I'm going to put my Instagram handle, guys, in the chat box for you. Any players that aren't currently with us that want help with their recruitment, just give us a shout, and we'll see how we may be able to help you. But that's it for today, guys. Thanks for joining, and speak to some of you soon.